Now, good morning, everybody. You've had your music, we got your hearts filled up. There's a lot of love in the room, and I'd just like to welcome you all here today. I had the most amazing week. I got to take 5 full days of just being with my family and friends, and I just rested, and it was really awesome. I had the most beautiful experience, and I hope you had a great experience. I hope you were able to take some time this week and be you and allow just love to flow through your life. And I know, thank you. I see some heads shaking and heads nodding. And I wanted to also say, thank you for allowing the changes and the progression to occur with our music and what we're doing, because there's really some good things coming our way. Gary Lynn Floyd was just on. I'd love for you to intention that presence being with us in the next few months. I'm intentioning it, and I see that happening. Also, I think Leroy and Barbara got to go down to Atlanta. Was it Atlanta where you went? Got to go down to Atlanta and see John Springer, and many of you have not met John yet, but you're talking about an up-and-coming superstar in the conscious music arena. They got to see him and experience that, and again, John's one of those people that we'd like to bring in here as a speaker and singer-songwriter. So now with us changing our music up a little bit and giving so much thanks to Mary and Tom, during the months and almost a year that they were here, we are going to move into a new space, and I think it's going to be a very intriguing and an exciting space for every single one of us, because it's going to bring dynamics of music that we may or may have never heard before. But I believe as we start getting to know these artists, people will just kind of flock in because there's just so much talent out there. And then people like Gary Lynn Floyd. We have our event coming up September 23rd, where I'm hoping more of these artists, I'm just getting ready to start my outreach to get them to come and play. We have 3 bands already scheduled. And again, these are the bands that are already scheduled are really going to cater to to the youth movement that we are working on supporting through Youth at Risk, through unity and diversity, because we are coming into such a time on this planet where we know we're all diverse in every way. Every single one of us. And so as we bring that unity, and I'm hearing it, are you hearing it on TV more and more? I'm hearing something I've never heard in commercials and on TV programming, or let's say YouTubing, because I don't watch TV, but YouTube programming, and I'm seeing things here and there where people are talking about this unity thing that we all feel must be happening. It has to happen with the way the world is shifting. So either we shift into unity consciousness or we don't. And we know what happens when we don't. But as we bring in more and more of these efforts, it's just happening on a global scale. So what I'd like to do today is one of our congregants here shared this book with me, Bringers of the Light by Neale Donald Walsch. And we were talking about that. You gave the daily word on the mustard seed. And sometimes, as we're going through our own processes of understanding what those parables in the Bible maybe meant, or what other great teachers, what they say sometimes, and we're like, yeah, but how do I do that? How do I get there? How does that really work? And of course, the unity principles we teach, along with other teachings like what Neale Donald Walsch, he does like a 5-step program. We have 5 principles. But is there a point, was the first one, which we talked about last week. Is there a point to this life? Neale Donald Walsch argues through his channeling. And it's not even an argument, it's just a statement. He says, is there a point? Getting clear about the purpose of your life. Is there a point to your life? Is there a point to all of this? And last week we talked about, no, there's not a point. But what there is, what we can get to, is we can ask for a purpose in our life, which guides us to our own point in our life. But to do that, to get clear, we need a purpose. And sometimes we walk around life without that purpose. And we go, well, how do we get that? What does that look like? How do I ask myself, what is a purpose? Well, you just ask. You just say, what is my purpose? Step 2, translate your purpose from doingness to beingness. What Neale talks about is doingness is a function of the body. We get up, we brush our teeth, it becomes a habit. We eat, we go to the bathroom, we eat again, we go to work. Do. We might work in our flower garden. Nothing wrong with all these things, but we're doing. Beingness is a function of the soul. So as we begin to try to understand these 5 points that Neale Donald Walsch brings up, the function of the soul goes into principle number 2. You are a human being, not a human doing. How many of you have heard that? We've heard that a lot. We are a human being, not a human doing. But we've been trained to be a human doing. So a human doing is doing those things we talked about. It just becomes a reactionary habit. Sometimes we're just doing, trying to accomplish, make money, live our lives, do blah, 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 and passing by our beingness sometimes. If we pass by our beingness, we don't experience it. We experience the doing. And I guess us and everybody's going to argue we hear that, but sometimes we get stuck in the doing. So as we continue to learn, we continue to evolve that. Now, the next several slides are going to kind of take us through what that process could look in our minds so we can begin to do that, to literally do these things of being. You sit because you are trying to be the thing called comfortable. Just think about that for a minute. So you are being what? Comfortable. You are not being sit. You're being comfortable. You're sitting to be. So the beingness comes out of the sitting, right? So let's just try to comprehend that. Then next, you stand because you're trying to be this thing called mobile. So you're trying to walk around, stay healthy, keep moving. So the beingness of standing is what? Being mobile. You talk because you're trying to be this thing called understood. So the being is becoming, say it with me, understanding. My being is this. And then you listen because you're trying to be understood. So what is the beingness of this thing called listening? Understanding. We don't always think about it like that, do we? We just say, I'm going to sit, I'm going to stand, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But the beingness of it is really what we are here to accomplish. State of beingness. Your body is a living demonstration of the state of beingness in which your soul resides. Demonstration is what we all talk about all the time. We want to demonstrate a life of being. So now, next, we are getting ready to go into this little space and take it to, and let's look at our steps so far. There's going to be 5 of these. Next week, we'll finish up the last 2. So last week, we started to get into declare your purpose. How many of you might have worked, you don't have to say yes or no, but I hope you started working on, if you're not already working on it, your purpose. Have you asked for your purpose? Have you developed your purpose in life? Maybe you've all known what that purpose in life is for a long time. Maybe you're maybe it's unveiling itself to you. Because it took a while to get there, didn't it? And did it change maybe a couple of times along the way? So that beingness of our purpose evolves, doesn't it? It changes as we evolve. It changes as we become more aware of the beingness that's inside us, that we are creating. Neale Donald Walsch talks about declare your purpose. Just declare it. If it's not coming to you, say, well, you know what? This is what I'm going to declare as my purpose, and see where that takes you in your beingness. The evolution, it doesn't matter sometimes how we get there. What it matters is that we're doing it. The do part, we are moving forward in our being. And in that, we can begin to understand, because what's going to happen? Our soul is going to unveil. It's going to lift up that veil. It's going to dissipate that veil so that we can see what's really there for us to do, for us to be. Now, the second step. Now ask you to translate that into a statement of beingness. So, maybe you want to look at yourself and say, today I want to be peaceful. Okay, fair enough, right? I want to be peaceful in my life today. Now, can I commit? This is a bigger one. The next step, can I commit to being peaceful in my life all day today? Then we start looking and expanding that. Can I be peaceful in my life? Or whatever your beingness might be, can I now do that for 2 days? Can I do that for a week? Oh my gosh, I've done it for a week. Can I do that for a month? All of a sudden, a year is going to come to you. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, I was in that beingness. I moved that mountain for a month, for 6 months. That mountain has disappeared out of my life. Does this make, is it making sense? This is all about what we have the power to do here and here. It's beautiful. Because we've been so untrained to do. I'm going to go to that one. Just because I think that's funny. Down at the bottom, sadly, most people spend their life doing, and ending up with a big pile of doo-doo. I just thought that was perfect. It really speaks mountains of doo-doo, doesn't it? So the state of beingness, your body is a living demonstration of the state of beingness in which your soul resides. Your body is a living demonstration of the state of beingness in which your soul resides. So if you are residing in doo-doo every day, you're going to do every day just like you've done every day. But once that awareness within your consciousness starts to lift up, good catch. Once that starts to rise up into your beingness, the doingness, it goes away. Because now you are laughing because something was humorous. All of a sudden, when something happens, you just laugh, and the beingness follows what just happened. Let's go on. Step 1, declare your purpose. Step number 2, now ask you to translate that into a statement of beingness. I am peace. I am whatever I am. I am living a life of full awareness. Every moment that I am committing to that so that I can rise up and serve and do whatever it is that I am called to do. The reason you are asked to do this is that only when your doing flows out of your place of being. The being must be there before the flow can come out of you. Can come out of the soul that resides within this body. It just happens. You don't have to make it happen anymore. The other way you did it, hoping you would find your being. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Announcing it rather than seeking it. Can you ever be centered enough to be a bringer of light? Did I say that wrong? Can you ever be centered enough to be a bringer of light? Yeah, that's it. So when we're doing, we can be, when we are being and the doing comes out of the being, we can be centered enough. We can be centered enough to be the bringer of light that we are. When you're doing it, you can't be the bringer of light that you are. You're too caught up in doing. I'm too caught up in doing. Declare your purpose. Now asks you to translate that into the statement of beingness. And now step number 3, commitment. Adopt right now the state of being you have described no matter what you are doing. So I'd like to ask you to close your eyes a minute. Let's do this exercise together. We started it last week. We're going to move into a couple more steps of it. Declare your purpose now. Of course, you can ask for guidance real quick if you'd like, if you haven't already declared it. What is my purpose? What is my purpose? How loving does that look? How divine does that look? You've got it. Now declare that purpose. Now translate that into beingness. How does it feel? The beingness is how it feels to you. That purpose you just said, how does it feel? Feel that. Now you're experiencing your beingness. It will come upon you. It will be what it is. And right now, adopt now the state of being you have described. You just described it to yourself. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You have now described your being. Sit with that. Feel that. I'm going to share with you some words. You can keep your eyes closed or you can open them. There is no brighter light in the universe than the light of your beingness. Look around in your mind's eye and look at all of the bright lights shining. Or open your eyes and look in this room if you want. And look at each light shining in the beingness of your own beauty, of your own resonance, of that own connection with God that you have with God, that your soul connects with God. That Christ consciousness of light that is flowing through each and every one of you. And when you're in that beingness, there is no brighter light. Therefore, let your life shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. And we can call that the greater goodness, source energy, love, light, God, all that it is. It's you. And a quote, for he said unto them, is a candle brought to be put under a bushel? Is your light to be a doer or to be? Is your light to be covered up by doing? Or is your light to shine through being and knowing with purpose who and what you are here doing? Or under a bed, and not to be set on a candlestick. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Yea. We give light to each and every one of us in this house. When we can smile, when we can be whole, when we can be full, when we're being. And that light just shines. And it makes everybody else around you feel so good. And it takes away the barriers. It takes away the mountains that get in your way. That metaphysical understanding of a mountain. And for all I know, maybe you can move a physical mountain. I don't know. I know I can drive up and around it. And maybe that mountain just doesn't get in my way anymore. But by being, that's the parable here. You are one of the courageous ones, someone who has made a life rather than a living. Now, it takes us a long time to learn that, doesn't it? Because what did we grow up? What happened? I'll tell you what happened to me. I grew up and people said, what are you going to be when you grow up? How are you going to live your life? How much money are you going to have? I'm going to program you to want a great big office looking over a great big lake. And I talk about this one all the time because it's what I did. Until I did it, until I was so sick of it. And around age 35, 36, I said, is this all there is? I'd already done all those things. And where was I? I was in a miserable space because I was paying all these crazy bills, trying to keep up with the Joneses. And whatever else I was trying to do. I was doo-dooing all over myself. Here and there and everywhere. Step 3 in itself is a quantum movement. That's huge. How much are we're all learning about the quantumness of what we think, and then it appears halfway across the universe just as we thought it. Or we saw a cell or an atom react because we became aware that it was in a space, and then it just happened somewhere else across the world. So everything we are being and doing is changing. It changes you in a quantum field, in a quantum level, that just because that happened, it changes everything else. And maybe when you're doing it does that. I don't know. But the beingness of it's the beautiful part. So don't go out now and just quit your job. How many of us have tried that? I can't do this one anymore. I'm going to just quit this job and I'll go find something else. And sometimes that's just what you have to do. But that's not what the lesson is we're learning here. I think we quit our jobs in stages. And some of us, not me, never quit our jobs because we can handle it the whole time. And I look at those people and I'm going, wow, y'all are amazing. You've had one job in your life? Right? Thank you, Sylvia. How did you do that? How is that possible? Well, we're also different. And we're in this process, you will move, you will change. Because what you commit to will no longer vibrate with what you're currently doing. It will force you to evolve. And no, bad word. It will pull you in to your evolution, into God, into your higher self. It will just pull you. And then things will change. And they'll become more and more and more beautiful. The mountains will continue to move away further and just dissolve as you go and be who you are, because the inner transformation is taking place. The quantum change of who we are is taking place. This is not what we are discussing in this teaching, and this is not what the process is all about. Do we understand the difference? Am I clear? Have I said anything to mislead anyone here? Take what you love, leave the rest. The truth is, you are choosing to be in the state in which you find yourself. Now, this is where it gets impactful. You and you and me and you and you and you are directly responsible for every single thing that's happening in your life. Not me, not Leroy, not Sylvia, not your son, not your daughter. You. Can you take that? Can you handle that? Because that's a big responsibility. Huge. But do we have to make it a huge responsibility? We don't have to make that a huge responsibility, because what are we doing? We're in the moment of being. So we can make it a loving responsibility and just commit to it. Commit to, I will be love. I will be who the feeling is that I want to be, not what the world, I believe, is forcing me to be. It's all up to you. And the only difference between you and those who have mastered this life is that the masters choose differently. They choose. They've been through this. Maybe they went really fast. Maybe they went really slow. Maybe they got stuck along the way at 25, 35, 45, 75, 95. I don't know. But they went on and they kept choosing. They kept choosing to be. Beautiful. You can produce a state of being by simply selecting one, and you can do this anytime, anywhere. Anytime. Bad day at work. Go into meditation. I choose to feel and be this. Don't even have to think about the other thing anymore. Whatever it was that's causing you distress. Breathe. Go into your meditation. Take these 3 steps. Do them. Remember them. Let the mountain move. Allow that mountain to move. Allow the old paradigm to disintegrate before your eyes, before your heart, and before your being. Step 3. And the only difference between you and we just did that one. Declare your purpose was step number 1. Step number 2, now ask you to translate that statement into a statement of beingness. And then number 3, when you can accept it as a possibility, that statement of beingness that you created, you said it, it came from your heart, it went into your mind, maybe you spoke it, maybe you didn't, but I would recommend you speak it. You take it into your heart, it comes back out through your throat chakra, and the only thing, we talked about it last week, the only thing that should come out of this mouth is loving, gentle kindness. Nothing else. Nothing. Because you know what you're doing when that happens? Black magic. You know, I said that in the last talk, and I'm going to hear it again from Josh. When I say you're not allowed to, you're allowed. But in my book, anytime I don't have to say a word that hurts anyone, and I can give love rather than giving something that is not so loving, it feels so much better to everybody. And there is a way to do it. There's a way to be gentle and kind with every word you say, even when someone's looking at you and perceiving you to be doing something that's not maybe fully loving or not fully whatever their perception of you is. Remember the 4 agreements. And again, these lessons and these things all build on each other as we come in here and we learn more and more and we try to reprogram. That is their perception. Do not take it personally. And we know how hard that can be, but we know we can do it. We don't have to take it personally. We can put it right back where it came from and say, they're coming from a different place than me. This is not personal. This is a perception that someone else may have. It's beautiful work. It's beautiful work. Now, step 3, when you can accept it as the possibility to create a state of beingness at any time, choose to move into the state of beingness you have described in step 2. And choose to be that no matter what you're doing. So what I just explained, step back into this place. Step back into this beautiful place. This is the formula through which people move into right livelihood. Step 4, observe. So he talks about right livelihood, living life fully. Livelihood, living it fully. This is how we begin to live our life truly fully, by being in these steps. And we can take these 5 steps that Neale Donald Walsch talks about, or we can take the unity principles, or we can look up on our board at our core values, or we can look at the Buddha. And we can find all of this stuff being said in different ways and transforming us in ways that each of us can hear, because what? We hear differently. Our perception on each word that comes out of my mouth or your word is heard a little bit differently. So we say it in many different ways. We can't keep saying it the same way. Why? Because we can't be heard all the time. Because why? Everybody's perception is different on each word. It's beautiful. That's why there's so many ways of speaking. But the key is bringing it in, taking it into your heart, and then knowing that it is transformed before it ever leaves your lips. My lips. Our lips. Step 4, we're going to cover next week. Observe opposition and call it opportunity, just to give you a little bit to think on. And step number 5, allow form to create itself. That's your manifestation.